Hi, good afternoon. My name is Queen Ann Cannon. You're in for a terrific show today. So this is the third session of our author series, and we have Jan Adkins. She's going to be talking about the blacks in Santa Clara Valley and more. And then we have another author. Her name is Chandra Brooks, and she's going to be talking about how we can impact the political field here in San Jose, in Santa Clara, anywhere actually. So welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you agreed to come on the show and be part of this author series that we're doing here at Peninsula View. So first of all, I just want to talk about a little bit about your books, you know, and then to see how it happened that you did this. Because I'm sure other people in the audience here have a book in their mind or in their heart, or they think it may be something of interest to others. And you not only thought that, but you made it happen. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, I'm anxious to.
Go ahead.
So Jen, let's start with you.
Well, I'm an educator, and as a teacher, my students were always asking me as we talk about different books, well, what was it like during that time? What was the history? And I didn't have answers for them. And so I told them, well, I don't know, but someday you can write a book about this, you know. And then we can
you
find
could write a book, yeah.
You could write a book. So my students turned to me and they said, me? What about you? Why don't you write a book? And I had no answer for them. And so that's when I set out this was about in 2012, to write my first book, which was African Americans of San Francisco.
And that's this one, you guys. It's really terrific. And so did you do a lot of research for this?
Oh, yes. I had to first of all, I had to meet with a lot of archivists and historians to get the history of San Francisco and the history of the African American community. Had to read all of the early black newspapers from the 1800s and find out about how they lived.
Very thorough.
Yes, and I had to find out about the black miners, you know, that were at Sutter, and they came and lived in San Francisco. So it was a lot of research. And then in terms of the 20th century, then I had to interview family members to talk about their family members and find out about what brought them to the area.
And where did this photo come from? I love this photo.
Oh, yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, that actually is Third Baptist Church in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And it's a photograph that was taken in the 1920s.
Okay,
and so that was their congregation.
And you can get this book where?
Oh, it's online, Amazon, or else you can even find it in bookstores, Barnes & Noble, and you can also get it at ArcadiaPublishingCompany.com.
And your next book was the one in Monterey County?
So then after that, 2 years later, I wrote the next book, which was African Americans of Monterey County.
So you got inspired, say, let's keep going.
What's next?
So people would ask me questions about South Bay and Santa Clara and Monterey, and I didn't have answers, and so I started doing research because we were reading the John Steinbeck books.
Oh, yes.
And we had to know about, and I wanted to know, well, what were African Americans doing during John Steinbeck's days, you know, during that time, and so the Academy Row and all of that. So I started researching Monterey County, and then and it was so exciting that I wrote that book, and because it's so exciting to find out that what African Americans were doing during that history.
Well, I really thank you for doing this because it's an interest to me, and I'm sure it'll be interest to anybody who purchases this book from Amazon. And I want to just break in here to say that I know all of us who probably have a book in mind that's something of interest for someone that would serve them. So while we're talking, think about the books you have in your heart, what you'd like to share with us. Because I'm going to go here, our young person here. I call her my young person because I've known her for a long time. So she's like the young person in my. Who's made a big influence on the people here in San Jose.
Thank you.
So I just like to say that you've been someone who has been in there fighting, contributing, making a difference with the political field, and then you wrote a book about how to get informed and empowered. So how did this come about?
Well, I was tired of family and friends texting me during political season and elections asking, say, Chandra, who do we vote for? Just give me the list. I'll vote for whoever you want me to vote for.
Okay, so you knew who.
They knew. Yeah. They called me the governor, the mayor. They think I'm like in all these positions. And I'm like, no, I want you to be informed about who is running.
Yeah, to sort of be responsible, right?
Right. You need to know. So I was like, I'm tired of it, and I want to write a book about it. And I think people didn't know how to get involved locally. They didn't know that they can be a commissioner. They can sit on board of directors. They can be on a school board. You know, they didn't know these things.
Well, how did you get started? Because I know you're a commissioner, past the president of the National Council
of NAACP,
and NAACP, And the women's rights.
Yeah, the Women's
Yeah.
Commission, vice chair of the Women's Commission.
Yeah. So
and-
how did you get started in all of this?
Well, I started in community, working for nonprofits. I was
Oh, okay.
I was a teen mom, and I went and started working for ESO. Tommy
Oh, you
Fulcher.
worked for USO?
I worked ESO.
Okay.
I worked for Tommy Fulcher, and he was a mentor to me and let me move up the ranks at ESO. And I learned how to write grants. Was working in the community, and then I seen that the nonprofits are like Band-Aids. You know, like they get the money and you help. You help. It's like a Band-Aid. It's not permanent.
It
right?
doesn't fix anything.
What fixes
It does.
things is policy, right, and law.
Okay.
So I seen that how the nonprofits work closely with politicians, and I said, okay, I got to get involved. I got to know what's going on, and I started just networking and seeing how, you know, if we take our seats at the table, the influence we had. So the more seats that I sat on, I seen that the power I had as one person. So if I could teach people how to do the same thing, the more change we could see. If
And
we
so
made more
when did
little
that
people like me.
idea come? When did that idea say, well, maybe I should write a book?
I think what I did, I was turning 39. I mean, I was 39. I was going to be 40. And I've always had big vision inside of me. It's like start my own business to just, I've always had big ideas. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? And I was working with a coach. And she was like, you should write a book, Chandra. You know, she said, you should write a book. You have a lot inside of you to share. Write a book. And I wrote a book, started my business before I was 40. And then I left SCIU to run my own business and to launch my book.
Wonderful. So you had an occupation. This
Yes.
is so good because
Yeah.
it could come from anywhere. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that you now have this design. It could come at any time, at any place, anywhere.
Yeah.
All you
Right.
need is a desire to contribute.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what I
Yeah.
tell people all the time. It's like we all have something to share, right? We should not keep this all bottled up inside of me. You shouldn't, like, if you've gone through something in your life,
Right.
you might be able to change somebody's life with your book and
Exactly.
your story.
Right. I
If
like
you
that.
have an idea to share or some knowledge to share, that's another way you could write a book. Something unique that you have that you need to put it out on a book to share with the world. Because
Yeah.
you could really make huge impact this way. And I've been able to, you know, a lot of people say, how come you run for office, Chandra? You need to run. Maybe I will one day, but I think
Right
God put this
now.
on my heart to spread this message far and wide. And the books are being shipped all across the country, schools,
Oh, awesome.
organizations, on conferences and panels and stuff. So it was meant for me to do this book first before I ever thought about running for office.
And I was just thinking about you, Jan. Your two books led you to the awesome publication that's coming up about
Yes.
the Santa Clara Valley and the
So
blacks that have been, important in our history.
Yeah, so what's happened is I've written another book, which is called African Americans of San Jose and Santa Clara County. And so what happened is that basically after writing the two books, I felt like we really didn't get a good understanding of the history of African Americans in the Valley. So San Francisco and in the Bay Area and Monterey, but there's a big gap.
Big gap, yeah.
And the biggest city in the Bay Area happens to be San Jose. And so I knew this was the ultimate challenge. And I felt that students and family members people who want to know about the history we'd have to have a book about San Jose.
Exactly.
And no one has taken the interest to write it, so I thought, well, okay, I guess I
That's
can.
my charge.
I thought, okay,
Yeah.
I know how to do it. I've written two other books. I
Right.
know the publishing company, and I thought, okay, well, that's what I need to do. And I decided to write the book, and it was a wonderful experience. I met so many people. Writing these books, I've met wonderful, wonderful people. I've had a chance to interview people who later on have passed on, and I was able to share their story and to tell to extend their legacy. And so I really feel that it's just an honor to to interview people who've lived in the Valley for maybe 100 years or less, but they've lived here for a very long time. And they have wonderful stories about what life was like back at the turn of the century.
So one of the things I'm interested in is that there's a legacy being provided here, and
Yes.
so your legacy is to provide other people with their history,
Right.
and hopefully other people will then see their legacy and probably provide something for the future
Right, each
generations.
one of us, we have a responsibility to our
Oh, I
community.
like that word, responsibility.
Yeah, to our
So
community.
listen, yeah.
And so we have to find a place where we fit. We have to find out what can we contribute to this community. We each have a different contribution. We can't just say, well, I think I want to do what someone else is doing. We have to do what fits
Exactly.
best in terms of our personality, our lifestyle, and our interest. And for me, history has always been an interest of mine. I love learning about local areas, and so this gave me an opportunity to make my contribution. But we all have an area, something that we can do to contribute to the knowledge of our communities. I know that one day this city is not going to look the way it looks today. Our communities will disappear. Our communities are disappearing now.
Yeah, just as we speak.
As we
yes.
speak, yeah. And so I know that that if we don't document our communities, we will never know anything about our communities. You look at the cities of both San Francisco and Monterey. The Western Addition is that black community that was there at one time is gone. It's totally gone. Our community in San Jose has been North San Jose. Eventually, this will disappear too, and we will see industry and apartment buildings and things like that. And that's wonderful. That's progress. But the history of our communities will no longer will cease. So this is from my point of view, it's so important to document the communities so that so our children can, and our children's children will know a little bit about our families that lived here on our contributions.
And I am so happy that you did that, because I'm always interested in history. And you're going to have a book review coming up
Well,
soon.
I'm going to have a book release celebration, which will be on February the 3rd, and it will be at the San Jose Art Museum. And so we're
Is it going to be like a free event? Anybody can come, or will you be
Yes.
sending out special invitations?
Well, I will be sending out reminders to people who are in the book so that they can also attend, but I will be open to the public.
Okay.
But there'll be others. During Black History Month, I will have an event at the San Jose Heritage House.
Oh,
And there'll be
yes.
other
I love
events.
that.
Yeah.
I love that house.
And I will also speak in the schools, so I will
So
manage
you'll be
to
busy. I'm happy about that.
sharing the good news of our communities.
Because, Cassandra, are you having any events coming up so that people can come? And I know they've heard about your book already. A lot of people bought it, but will you be having special events where you'll be able to share this with other people?
Well, I don't have any special events coming up right now, but I'm going, I'll be speaking, I'll be in Miami coming up shortly in February.
Miami?
I'll be in Miami at a conference talking about my book. My schedule has been getting so full, like I can't even keep up with what I'm
Isn't
doing
that
right now.
awesome?
It's a blessing. It's a blessing with my business and my book, but I can't even think right now what's going on.
So if you
Because
had
it's kind of like just kind of blowing up a little bit
More than what
right
you
now,
expected,
more than
so-
what I expected. So I need
For-
to get some help with my schedule.
Okay, so for the audience, I know that,
Yeah.
so that people can take away something.
Yeah.
What would you suggest? We have like a half a minute
What
for you.
What they take away from the book?
Yeah, take away from your whole experience, not just from the book, but your
Mm-hmm.
experience with their life.
I think to just go for it. You know,
Go for it. I love
for
it.
You know, just don't hesitate. It's easier to write a book than people think.
Okay.
People think it's very hard, and it's not.
Okay, what about you, Jan?
And I would say follow your dreams and be creative. Find creative outlets, creative ways. If writing a book isn't what you can do, maybe you can simply share ideas and motivate other people. Volunteer in the community. That's what I
wonderful.
suggest.
So I hope that you get something from this and that it offers you an opportunity to follow a dream that's hidden in your heart or something that is that you wanted to contribute to someone. So take it from these awesome women. So now we're going to go back to the other part is I want to have people look at some of the mechanics of when they start to write a book. So you can start first and then what is some of the mechanics that one must do when they say, well, maybe, just maybe, I have a book in my heart that I can now make public. Do they have to go through feeling exposed or willing to, what do they do first, emotionally and then physically?
Well, I think the first step is to begin to jot down on paper some of your ideas for writing your book. Because many of the things that you jot down on paper initially, those things you may not cover in the book. But you have them on paper so that at some point when you go back and look at your notes, you have ideas. And these are ideas that come really out of your heart. So you're brainstorming ideas that come from your heart, and they can include everything. You make a shopping list of all of the ideas that you have and why you feel the way you feel. Just make a list so that it's like an outline. And once you created that list, then you'll pick and choose. So when I wrote my book, I have, my outline was about 4 or 5 pages. I put everything I could imagine that I wanted to include in the book. But I knew, by the time I finished, I knew there was no way I could include all of that in the book. The book
So
was
don't
only,
even go there, right? Because some people may think that because they thought of it was important to them, that they want to have that in the book.
no, right. You
Yeah.
want to make a list, and then you go back and you identify the most important points.
Okay.
And then you have to, and then after looking at the list, though, before you even decide on your points, you have to decide on the concepts. What are the 3 or 4 important concepts you want in the book? And once you've identified your concepts and ideas, then you want to do your research for the background and the history, and then you go back and plug in the ideas that fit the concept. But you have to have that list to start with, because
Okay.
that list has to include all of the possibilities. But it doesn't mean that you're going to write about all of those things on the list. But it just means that this is a way to begin to organize. And you can't just write off, the seat of your pants. You have to have a
Some
list
thought,
or some
yeah.
thought, ideas, and then some things that are really important, you highlight those most important things.
Okay.
Like if there's an idea that you want to share in your book, or a theme, you highlight that theme on your list. So that means you'll go back to that theme. And some things are not important, and you just ignore them.
Okay, let's go.
Exactly.
And what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with the
Uh-huh.
outline and the important parts. So I did like chapters. I would just brainstorm my chapters and then put subtitles or subtopics in every chapter. That's kind of how I did my outline. And some things I took out, some things I kept in. And I don't like to write. A lot of people.
Oh, you don't like a writer
I
who
don't
doesn't like to write.
I don't like to write.
So you don't have to like to write.
No,
to write
you
a
don't.
book.
And I'm going to tell you how you can still write a book and not like to write. So my coach, every month, she's like, okay, Chandra, how many chapters you got? How many pages you got? And I'm like, oh, I'm struggling to write every day. This is just too much. I can't do it. And so she was like, okay, do voice dictation. So what I did is voice my book in my phone.
Oh, okay.
And I talked it. I just talked my book and transcribed it on my phone, emailed it to myself, then we sent it to the editor, when I was done.
Wow.
Broke it down by chapter, by section, talked it out after I followed my outline. I have everything in here. So I just talked it. And they edited it. It was in my own voice, with the passion that I have for this topic. It was all in there. And it was better for me to do it that way. So when people read this, they can hear me. They can hear the passion and how I just normally talk.
So there's a question that I want to ask, and that question is there any emotional kind of something you had to go through in order to be with you writing this book and having it printed and shown to your friends and family? I want to talk about that.
Yes, I did, because I don't feel like I'm a political expert. I never claimed to be a political expert, but I do know I'm involved politically. And as a constituent, as a volunteer, as a person in the community, as a leader in the community, I had a perspective. I don't say I know everything that has to do with politics, but I know my experience. And I wanted to share the normal person's experience and how much power we had as individuals.
Okay,
So I wanted to share that. So I had an insecurity. I'm like, people in politics that think that they know more than me, they're probably going to be like,
They're judging you, evaluating you.
Judging me on putting this out there. And I was insecure about it, and I really was struggling to put it out.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I was struggling.
But that is a courageous thing to do, even though you had that, we all had that, to make sure that you dealt with it and accepted it and still committed yourself to making it public.
Yeah, I was just like,
that was
I
awesome.
didn't care anymore. At one moment, I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to put it out. People could judge me at the end of the day, but the amount of lives it's touched, the amount of empowerment it's given to young people and to people that had no idea about politics or how much power they had as an individual is worth whatever criticism I'm gonna get.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Did you go through some of that too, Jan?
Well, yes. So in my case, I was really concerned that I didn't have, I left someone out of the book who should be in the book.
Oh, okay.
Because the book does include people in the present, from the community that are presently still active in the community. And my biggest fear is that I would leave somebody out. And sure enough, it happens all the time. Someone says, oh, did you include this family? Did you include that person?
No, I didn't.
No, that's okay, because I've learned that and it's not possible to include everyone. However, that means that there's another book.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Another book.
Another sequel to this.
Not for me, but someone else from the community.
Yeah.
If you see it differently, now this is your opportunity to write another version of the book.
Oh, yeah, a continuation.
And to continue the story.
Oh, I love it.
And even to include people who've been left out of the story. So I had people say to me, but how come my grandmother? I said, well, that's wonderful. She has a beautiful story. You can write the book.
So give them something to do. Okay, now maybe that's your charge. Now you have a job to do. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah.
So I just want to just really thank you for the courage
Yeah.
and the, because we all have good ideas, right?
Yeah.
But to actually put your idea to paper and to follow it through, which I think is amazing that you did that, and now it is now a physical item. Because we all have ideas. I have ideas all the time. And the way you explained it, the way you have to be committed to it, so I just really thank you for doing that.
Can I just say one more thing about writing a book, and especially if it's something that's painful to you and you have a story to share,
okay.
Whether it's like domestic violence or you've gone through some trauma in your life, you really have to do the work within yourself before you start writing, because it'll bring back all of that memory, all of that pain and hurt. But usually your story can help somebody. You might save somebody's life.
Wow.
You might save somebody's life by your story. So it's important though that you do that inner work before you start writing. But you should do that inner work so then you can share the story.
And have
make
all
a
that
huge
work
difference.
for you.
Yeah.
The insecurities,
You can turn your pain into
everything.
your purpose.
Yeah.
Turn your pain into your purpose.
I like that.
Yeah.
Turn your pain into purpose and make a difference in someone else's life.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So what about you, Jan? One last thing.
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to, instead of waiting for someone else to write the book, you write the book. Just give it a try. Take the first step. And there's also many people in the community that can help you. They're willing to work with you. There are archivists. When I started this book, the first thing I do is I get to know all the historians in the community. There are street historians and there are archivists in libraries, and they love to talk about the history. So there are people there are resources. If you're not sure about editing, there are so many retired English teachers around. You can find help with editing.
Retired English teachers, put them to work.
And the other thing I want to say is that don't be afraid to find a publishing company. So what I did was, once I had my ideas, I contacted the publishing company, and I found one that was interested in local history, which is Arcadia Publishing Company. But I would suggest don't be afraid of contacting publishing companies. They're looking for ideas all the time, and they will help you, and they will provide the editor for you. They will provide the resources, and they will publish your book.
So this is even better than self-publishing, which a lot of people are doing.
Well, self-publishing works in certain situations, and then publishing through a publishing company. And so it just depends. This book is published through a publishing company, but self-publishing, if you want control of your book and control of the information in your book, possibly, it depends, possibly self-publishing works. But I had total control of my book. But I really like the resources that was available to me through this company. So every company's different, and every purpose is different, and you have to find the publishing.
You research it for yourself.
Yeah, you have to research for yourself
Okay,
and make that
wonderful,
decision.
Wonderful, a lot of good ideas, and so you can take them all and see where your dream fits and what things you want, and how you can present to us your passion. So again, thank you very much, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
It's been awesome education for me.
Yes.
Your name. I now can get it right. So, okay, this is Queen Anne Cannon, Peninsula View. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.